Good evening. So, as I sit here with a glass of wine, thinking about certain things, and there's something that's been on my mind for a while. I've kind of touched on it in other videos, and something that's really occurring to me is that all over the United States and all over the world, people are obviously seeing strange things in the woods. And if we look historically, stuff like the Mothman, things like the Dogman, and the Jersey Devil, the Wendigo, Skinwalkers. There seems to be long traditions of very strange things out there in the woods. Most people would call it paranormal, ghost, hauntings, UFOs. And, you start to think about how they're all connected. Is there a UFO Bigfoot connection? Is there something about ghosts connected to demons? And are aliens connected to demons in some way? Are they demons? Are they interdimensional? Are they extra dimensional? Are they some kind of a manifestation? Are people really seeing these creatures? Is it some kind of entity we don't understand making us think we're seeing these creatures? And then you get reports of some of these strange creatures in the woods, like a Bigfoot, that leave footprints and eat and live and sleep and have family and breed. And then you have other things like the Mothman and the Jersey Devil and certain things, lake monsters on a lake that it doesn't make sense to have something that big living in it. And, the Goat Man too, all these strange creatures people are seeing. And it makes you wonder how they're connected, where they come from. Have they always been here? Is it some kind of hallucination? Is it some kind of a folklore? Are these some kind of, is there a line to be drawn? Is there a real living flesh and blood creature like a Sasquatch? But then when you have a Goat Man or a Mothman, you're dealing with something demonic. And it's stuff that I've contemplated many years now, and I've talked about in a lot of my videos, and where we draw lines with these things, and how some Bigfoots can almost be benevolent and be helpful and defend families, and people can have a very curious relationship with them. And then there's other things with Sasquatch that they seem downright evil. And there seems to be certain varieties that get really huge and have fangs and are carnivorous, things that nightmares are made out of. So at what point do you draw the line between natural creature, demonic enemy? Who knows what you want to call these things, but something that's really come to my attention lately and that I'm pressed for a lot. People ask me quite a bit lately, and that listening to encounters, listening to everything else. Some people can chalk it up to mass hysteria, but I think there's a definite rise in cryptid sightings, a definite rise in Bigfoot sightings, a definite rise in Dogman sightings. And those are kind of the two ones we talk about the most on this channel, but strange things in the woods, people are seeing them. I mean, UFOs too. I don't know if it's just more in the vernacular, where if they saw something big and hairy run across the road 50 years ago, they didn't have a name for it, and now they know what to call it. So that's why people are saying it more and more. Or, weirdo nerd culture is a little bit more accessible these days, so people are more willing to talk about it than years past. People saw something weird and they didn't tell anybody, and they Google search it and they find there's a whole world to this, and podcasts and books and shows and YouTube channels like the one you're watching talking about this. I don't know. I know across the United States in a lot of different areas, wild hog populations are out of control. Deer populations are out of control. Human, hunting is down. Human encroachment is up from civilization, from where we move and drive everywhere else. So there's more people, and maybe some of these creatures, for lack of a better term, these monsters, if you will, if you want to call them monsters, perhaps their populations are growing, and perhaps our populations are growing. So more interactions are bound to come together. So when it really comes down to the question is there a rise in paranormal activity and monster sightings specifically? We'll leave the paranormal activity, the hauntings, the UFO stuff to other channels, people who know it far better than me. But when we talk about cryptids, cryptozoology, and we talked about undiscovered species, and we talk about these strange creatures people see all across the world, I actually think there's something else going on. I think there's something more than, a population boom for them, a population boom for us, being more in the vernacular, people knowing what to call these things. I don't know what it is, but I think something big is going on. I think something bigger. Now, I'm not saying this is going to end in 10 years or 5 years and there's going to be some big crescendo to all this and the world's going to end. I mean, I'm very much too real for that. I think the Earth's been around a lot longer than we know. I think the Earth's been here a lot longer than humans have been, or at least in our current form, and I think it'll be here a lot longer after us. People have very biblical perspectives of this, and I get that. People talk about the second coming or talk about the Nephilim or things living in cave and things living in the earth, and there's hollow earth theories. And these creatures are rising up, and they have ancient battles going on. And there's also other theories that, that these things are extra dimensional. They come from a different dimension, a parallel dimension. Quantum mechanics and sciences have discovered alternate dimensions. And they've proved that mathematically, anyway, that they exist. And maybe as we spin through outer space and we spin around our solar system and spin around our universe and spin around who else knows what, and cross through space and time, maybe rifts open up, different portals, some kind of intelligence controls these things. And who knows? Who knows what's going on really with this stuff? But I just have a feeling, a sinking suspicion, there's a lot more going on than we know. And there's something else that's causing these things to manifest themselves more. I mean, people report Bigfoot activities in rather large towns. That's one thing, common misconception is that you have to go deep out in the woods to find Bigfoot. And I mean, if you live in New York or LA or something, you're probably not going to see one in the middle of the city, but you can go to any major population center in the United States and go within an hour of driving, and you can be somewhere that has thick wooded area, or at least sparsely populated, that's had Bigfoot sightings or dogman sightings. And that's what really scares me, the dogman, more than the Bigfoot, because if Bigfoot seemed like some kind of a sinister ape, that has kind of a dubious reputation, the dogman seemed to be built for pure terror. And then you get into some of the more bizarre things and some of the other things that people see coming out of the deep, dark places of the earth. Giants. And you hear about some of the things that are seen out in the middle of the ocean in the lakes. And you hear about red-haired giants. You hear about Native American lore where even the Bigfoot fear it. Even the dogman fear these things. True giants. Not 8, 10 feet tall like a Bigfoot, but 12, 14, 20 feet tall giants. Man-eating giants. And you hear about some of these very carnivorous varieties of Bigfoot, 7, 8, 9, 10 feet tall, 1,000 pounds, teeth, fangs, not gentle, not nice, that are basically like polar bears, but much more aggressive. And people see these things, and people are seeing them more and more. And what's their purpose? I mean, if you're religious in any sense, you have to think that humankind has a purpose more than just continuing on our own species, and you got to think that there's maybe some kind of a plan in the universe, or maybe there isn't. So these are all just things I've been thinking about, is what the real reason of why we're seeing such an increase in cryptid activity. Could it be something as simple as deer and game populations, human encroachment? I mean, obviously I think all that has an importance to it, but incredibly elusive creatures seem to be somewhat more easily spotted, out of the shadows in the deep woods. They seem to be edging on our cities more. I don't know if they're taking more of an interest in us, or if there's just more of us, or we're taking more of an interest in them. But it definitely seems that there's there's the shy, gentle, fleeting forest giant to something a little more aggressive, something that's a little more interested back at us. Definitely seems to be what's going on here. So we think about some of these creatures in a physical sense. They leave tracks. We can hear them howl. They rub against trees. They knock on trees. And then there's some of these creatures that just, like when I hear about the Mothman, I don't think we're talking about an undiscovered species. And I think when you talk about the goat man and some of these other creatures out there, I think you're crossing the line into something that, for lack of a better term, for my own uneducated brain must call a demon or some kind of a, malevolent spirit. I mean, I don't know, for lack of a better term. Where if a Bigfoot, you can say it's some kind of undiscovered primate hominid species. And then when you get into the dogman, it seems to be such a gray area of upright walking canine. I've never heard of that. There's lots of fossil record of upright walking apes. And then, like I said, when you get off and you start looking at the Mothman, which I've been looking into a lot lately, you look at the Thunderbird phenomenon, you look at tales of the Kraken and the Leviathans and things that are all through the sea, stories of these huge creatures. It just kind of makes you wonder, what's the bigger picture here? What are we missing? What am I missing? So just kind of ruminations, thoughts. I think something's coming up. I think something's happening. I think possibly within the next few years here, discovery of Bigfoot. I think that's probably going to be the first one. It's become such a pop culture icon, such a pop culture conversation. Everybody knows what a Bigfoot is these days versus even 10 years ago, versus even 30 years ago. And if they do, I think that's going to be kind of the gateway. I think that's going to be kind of the bridge to a larger world of strange things and the creatures. When you talk about things in the woods and strange creatures people are seeing. So anyway, that's just kind of my 2 cents. You guys let me know in the comment. Let me know what you think's going on. I definitely think people are seeing these creatures more, and I think we're definitely building to something. To what end, I'm not sure of. Please stay safe in the woods, and thank you very much, folks.